Hello, and welcome to Tales for Life. In each episode of this podcast, we'll explore a folk or fairy tale from a different culture or region and discover the life lessons, values, and morals they offer that we can use today. Join me on the journey through the magical and meaningful world of folk and fairy tales. Hello, and welcome to Tales for Life, the podcast that journeys through life one tale at a time. Whether you're listening on your morning commute, out for a walk, winding down after a long day, or simply carving out a quiet moment for yourself, I'm really glad you're here. This space is for reflection, for story, and for the kind of gentle wisdom that meets us right where we are. In today's episode, we're exploring one of the most personal and complicated truths we face: what it really means to love ourselves. Not the polished version, not the curated one, but the whole honest self. It's an episode I've titled, Love the Truth of You. Loving ourselves is one of the most vital and tender acts we can commit to. It's the foundation for how we show up in the world, how we treat others, and how we weather life's storms. But self-love isn't just about affirmations or comfort. It's about seeing ourselves clearly, embracing both the light and the shadow. To love ourselves well, we must be willing to look honestly at who we are, flaws and all, and still choose kindness. But there's a trap that's easy to fall into: mistaking self-love for self-protection. When we gloss over our shortcomings or refuse to acknowledge the parts of ourselves that need growth, we risk building a fragile kind of love, one that can't withstand challenge or change. True self-love requires truth. It asks us to be brave enough to see what's uncomfortable and still hold ourselves with grace. Today's story, a French folktale titled Prince Hyacinth and the Dear Little Princess, explores this delicate balance. It's a tale of charm, denial, and the quiet courage it takes to face what we'd rather not see. Let's begin. Once upon a time, there was a king who loved a princess under a strange enchantment. To win her hand, he sought out a fairy who told him, "The princess has a beloved cat. Whoever manages to step on its tail will break the spell and become her husband." The king, confident and determined, set off at once. But the cat was quick, darting, twisting, always just out of reach. For 8 days he chased that tail, growing more frustrated by the hour. Finally, he found the cat asleep, tail stretched out like an invitation. He stomped down hard. With a terrible yowl, the cat transformed into a tall, furious man. "You've broken the enchantment, so you shall marry the princess," he said. "But I will have my revenge. Your son will never be happy until he realizes his nose is too long. And if you ever speak of this curse, you'll vanish forever." The king, though shaken, laughed it off. "If my son's nose is truly that long, surely he'll notice." But the enchanter disappeared, and the king married the princess. Not long after, he died, leaving behind a baby boy named Hyacinth. Hyacinth had lovely blue eyes, a sweet little mouth, and a nose so enormous it covered half his face. The queen was distraught, but her ladies reassured her. "It's a Roman nose. All great heroes have them." And so she chose to believe it. Hyacinth was raised in a world where long noses were celebrated. Short noses were mocked in stories. Courtiers stretched their babies' noses to match the prince's. His tutors praised historical figures with grand noses. His walls were covered in portraits of long-nosed nobles. and Hyacinth grew up utterly convinced that his own nose was perfect, perhaps even enviable. When he turned 20, the queen decided it was time for him to marry. She summoned portraits of eligible princesses, and among them was one that caught his eye, the dear little princess. Now, she was the daughter of a great king and heir to several kingdoms, but Prince Hyacinth barely noticed. He was completely enchanted by her beauty. Her nose, though small and slightly upturned, was the perfect complement to her face. But the prince's courtiers, conditioned to mock short noses, sometimes laughed before they could stop themselves. Hyacinth, outraged, banished 2 of them for insulting the princess's nose. The rest learned quickly. One even told the prince that while long noses were essential for men of worth, women's beauty followed different rules, and Cleopatra herself had a tip-tilted nose. Hyacinth was so pleased, he rewarded the man and sent ambassadors to propose to the princess. Her father agreed, and Hyacinth rode out to meet her. Just as he reached for her hand, the enchanter appeared in a flash and whisked the princess away. Heartbroken, Hyacinth refused to return home until he found her. He rode alone, letting his horse choose the way, until he came to a vast plain. Hungry and exhausted, he spotted a light glowing from a cave and approached it. Inside was a tiny old woman, actually a fairy, who struggled to adjust her spectacles because her nose was so short. When she and Hyacinth saw each other, they burst into laughter and exclaimed, "Oh, what a funny nose!" "Not so funny as yours," Hyacinth replied before asking for food. The fairy agreed, saying, "Though your nose is ridiculous, you're the son of my dear friend. He had a truly handsome nose." Hyacinth bristled. "And what's wrong with mine?" "Oh, nothing lacking," she said. "If anything, there's a bit too much of it." But she assured him that one could still be a worthy man with a long nose. As she rambled on about her youth and royal lineage, Hyacinth grew impatient. He interrupted, trying to stay polite, but clearly frustrated. The fairy, charmed by his manners, finally called for supper. While he ate, Hyacinth watched the fairy chatter endlessly, with servants chiming in to praise her wisdom. One maid, in particular, seemed to turn every comment into a compliment. Hyacinth smirked to himself. "How foolish to be surrounded by flatterers," he thought. "They blind us to our faults. I'm glad I've never fallen for that. I know my own defects. I hope." Poor Prince Hyacinth truly believed he knew himself. He had no idea that those who praised his nose were secretly laughing at him, just as he'd seen the fairy's maid laugh behind her mistress's back. As his hunger faded, the fairy leaned in and said, "My dear prince, could you move a bit? Your nose casts such a shadow I can't see my plate." She rambled on about court life and parties, but kept circling back to his nose. Hyacinth, growing irritated, insisted he was perfectly satisfied with it. "One must take what is given," he said. The fairy tried to soothe him, promising not to mention it again, though she added, "To be honest, it would make 3 reasonable noses." Hyacinth, now fed, but fed up, mounted his horse and rode away. Yet everywhere he went, people commented on his nose. He thought they were all mad. After a lifetime of flattery, he simply couldn't believe it was too long. The fairy, wanting to help, devised a plan. She placed the dear little princess in a palace of crystal, where Hyacinth would surely find her. Overjoyed, he tried everything to break the glass, but nothing worked. At last, he reached out to kiss her hand and found he couldn't. His nose got in the way. For the first time, he saw the truth. "Well," he said, "it must be admitted, My nose is too long." Instantly, the crystal shattered. The fairy appeared, smiling. "Now you see, all my talk did nothing, but once your nose got in the way of what you truly wanted, you saw it for yourself. That's how self-love works. It blinds us to our flaws until they block our path." Prince Hyacinth, whose nose was now just like anyone else's, did not fail to profit by the lesson he had received. He married the dear little princess, and they lived happily ever after. It's a fun, exaggerated tale, no doubt, but let's not let that bit of whimsy get in the way of some good, down-to-earth advice. First, let's talk about the people around Prince Hyacinth, the ones who praised his nose, flattered his ego, and never dared to tell him the truth. It's easy to surround ourselves with voices that only echo what we want to hear, but true friends, the ones who care about us, are also the ones who speak the hard truths, not to hurt us, but to help us grow. Second, if everyone around us is saying the same thing, if the fairy, the townspeople, and even strangers are pointing out something we refuse to see, it might be time to pay attention. Sometimes the truth is uncomfortable, but ignoring it doesn't make it go away. And finally, real happiness begins when we own up to our flaws. Whether it's accepting something we cannot change or working to change something we can, the first step is honesty with ourselves. Pretending we're perfect is exhausting, and ignoring our faults is as silly as pretending a nose 3 times too large is nothing to worry about. So as we wrap up today's episode, here's your gentle nudge forward. Be brave enough to see yourself clearly, kind enough to accept what you find, and bold enough to grow from it. You're not alone in the journey, and every step you take with honesty brings you closer to joy. Now go out there with your head held high, nose and all, and live the kind of truth that makes room for real happiness. You've got this. And the next chapter? It's yours to write. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Tales for Life.